Ever wondered what happens to a queen's treasures when she chooses not to wear them? We've all seen Queen Elizabeth II adorned in her iconic tiaras and signature pearls. But what about those magnificent pieces that spent years collecting dust in the deepest corners of her legendary vault? Today, we're taking you on an exclusive journey into the most mysterious corners of the royal jewelry collection. We'll discover tiaras rejected by 3 consecutive queens, chokers that simply didn't match her style, and jewels with histories so complex that even Her Majesty seemed reluctant to touch them. This isn't your typical story about the jewels the queen wore. Instead, this is about the treasures she generously loaned to others, allowing them to sparkle in her place. These are tales of royal jewels with the most fascinating and deeply personal histories. The Ghost Tiara. Our exploration of these vault secrets starts with a tiara so enigmatic it's practically a phantom. A piece with flawless royal lineage, passed down through generations, yet mysteriously avoided by 3 queens consecutively. Let me introduce you to the Teck Crescent Tiara. The story begins with Queen Mary's mother, Princess Mary Adelaide, the Duchess of Teck. She was King George III's granddaughter, known for her vibrant personality and deep passion for jewelry. She created this tiara using diamonds inherited from her aunt, Princess Mary, the Duchess of Gloucester. The design is absolutely dramatic. 20 diamond crescents embrace 3 striking diamond roses. It's completely one of a kind, blending Victorian romance with almost Gothic magnificence. Following the Duchess's passing, her eldest son, Prince Adolphus, inherited the tiara. His wife, Margaret, was famously captured wearing it during King George V's coronation in 1911. Eventually, the tiara returned to the main royal line and Queen Mary's possession. And here's where things get truly mysterious. Queen Mary, renowned as the ultimate jewelry connoisseur, was apparently never photographed wearing this spectacular piece from her own mother's collection. Instead, she passed it to her daughter-in-law, the future Queen Mother. While the Queen Mother did wear it occasionally in the late 1930s, particularly during the 1939 Canadian Royal Tour, it never became a favorite. After that tour, it vanished from public view for over 6 decades. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited it in 2002, the silence continued. She never wore it either. That's 3 queens, Mary, the Queen Mother, and Elizabeth II, all owners of this historic tiara, yet none truly claimed it as their own. But the mystery deepens. Reports suggest that after marrying Prince Charles, this very tiara was loaned long-term to Camilla. Yet throughout her years as Duchess of Cornwall and now as Queen, she's never worn it publicly. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's the story behind this tiara? Is the design too dated? Is it uncomfortable? Or does it carry some hidden tale that keeps royal ladies at a distance? It remains one of the greatest mysteries within the royal vault. If the Teck Crescent is puzzling, our next piece is a genuine detective mystery, a jewel so elusive that royal watchers debate whether it even exists. Meet the Queen Mother's double meander tiara. The story likely begins with the incredible jewelry collection left to the Queen Mother by society hostess Dame Margaret Greville in 1942. Here's the first mystery. The Queen Mother, who absolutely adored grand tiaras and was constantly photographed wearing them, was never once seen in this piece. For decades, it existed only as a name on inventory lists, a ghost in the collection. Its sole confirmed public appearance wasn't on any royal head, but behind glass at a modern jewelry exhibition at Goldsmiths Hall in London in 1961. Then complete silence for another 45 years, until a state banquet in 2005. During a dinner for China's president, a grainy, long-distance photograph captured Princess Anne wearing a tiara that looked remarkably familiar. The image is blurry and unclear, but those 2 rows of diamond meanders, that distinctive shape, the resemblance is striking. Could this be the lost double meander tiara? Nobody knows for certain. The palace has never confirmed it. Was it a one-time loan from her mother's collection, or perhaps a private gift from her grandmother she'd kept hidden all these years? It's a captivating mystery showing how some jewels live their lives in shadows, leaving us to piece together their stories from the briefest glimpses. The Choker Chronicles. A monarch's taste isn't just about personal memories. Sometimes it's about fundamental style preferences. When it came to Queen Elizabeth II, there was one necklace style she famously seemed to avoid: chokers. I find this fascinating. What do you think about chokers? Personally, I love them on others. On an elegant neck, a choker looks incredibly regal and sophisticated, but I can't wear them myself. I always feel uncomfortable with something wrapped tightly around my neck. I don't know for certain why the Queen avoided chokers, but I certainly understand why she might have. Her aversion to this style created some of the most interesting lending stories in her entire collection. Queen Mary's City of London choker. Let's start with a jewel that has a wedding story and a wonderful mystery attached. The story begins with Queen Mary's 1893 wedding. The Lord Mayor and City of London gifted her a pair of beautiful pearl and diamond bracelets in an elegant lattice design. Here's the clever part. The 2 bracelets could be joined together and worn as a fashionable choker. It was Queen Mary's lifelong favorite, worn from her early years as Duchess of York through her later reign. When Queen Elizabeth inherited it in 1953, it followed a predictable path. True to her preference, she never wore it as a choker. The trail went cold for decades until 2001, when it made a surprise return around Princess Anne's neck. She wore it to a Natural History Museum gala and several times afterward. The Queen had once again found the perfect wearer for a jewel she wouldn't use herself. But here's where the puzzle begins, a real mystery for jewelry lovers. In the 1960s, the Queen was photographed wearing a very similar pearl and diamond bracelet. So was she wearing one of the City of London bracelets, proving she appreciated the design, just not as a choker? Or was it a different, nearly identical bracelet inherited from Princess Marie-Louise? The pieces are so alike, it's almost impossible to determine from old black and white photographs. Queen Mary's diamond choker bracelet. This wasn't the only choker the Queen passed to a new generation. There was another piece of sleek Art Deco glamour that also waited decades for its moment. Created around the 1920s, this stunning piece features diamond bars in clean geometric design. It was one of several diamond chokers in Queen Mary's magnificent collection, famously photographed in portraits from that era. It's unclear whether it was originally designed as a bracelet or modified later, but its dual identity is crucial to its story. After Queen Mary's 1953 death, the jewel remained unseen for over 20 years. Then, in 1975, it made a surprise reappearance, but not as a choker. The Queen Mother wore it as a wide, glamorous bracelet for Norman Parkinson's portraits marking her 75th birthday. After that, silence again. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited it, she never wore it, neither as choker nor bracelet. It remained in the vaults until 2015. For the Chinese state banquet, the Queen loaned it to Catherine, the then Duchess of Cambridge, who wore it as a bracelet. It was perfect, its Art Deco elegance adding vintage glamour to her modern look. She's worn it on several important occasions since, including the 2018 diplomatic reception at Buckingham Palace. A jewel designed for the neck in the Jazz Age has found new life on the wrist in the 21st century, all because the Queen saw its potential for a future queen while not wanting it for herself. The Russian exception. Next comes a jewel with direct imperial connections, a piece that left Russia after the Romanov dynasty's fall and eventually found a British home. But this choker has a twist. Knowing the Queen's lifelong choker aversion, you'd expect this one went straight to the vaults, but it became the rare exception to her rule. This is Empress Maria Feodorovna's sapphire choker. The story begins with a magnificent wedding gift to the future empress from her British royal relatives. The geometric sapphire and diamond clasp was later set at the heart of this 4-row pearl choker, becoming one of her most cherished jewels. After the Russian Revolution, it was among the few treasures she escaped with. After her death, the great collector Queen Mary purchased it. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited it, she did something unexpected. On a couple rare occasions in her reign's early years, cameras captured it, the Queen actually wearing a choker. It was fleeting, however. The style clearly never became a favorite. She was also seen wearing it as a bracelet, but ultimately the jewel was destined for someone else. By the early 1970s, the choker had found its perfect wearer, the Queen's only daughter, Princess Anne. For Anne, this historic jewel became an absolute signature. She's worn it faithfully for decades, state banquets, royal weddings, and countless formal events. It suits her perfectly. The Delhi Durbar Emerald Choker. Speaking of chokers, we cannot continue without discussing the next one. It's perhaps the most famous choker in the entire royal collection, a jewel that became a true style icon. The story begins, as many do, with Queen Mary and British Empire treasures. During the 1911 Delhi Durbar, the ladies of India presented her with an impressive emerald gift. 10 years later, in 1921, with her characteristic reinvention eye, she had Gerard transform the original longer necklace into this stunning Art Deco choker. It's a masterpiece of its time, set with 14 brilliant emeralds in platinum and diamonds, the perfect piece for Mary's signature layered jewelry style. Queen Elizabeth II inherited the choker in 1953. It simply sat in the vaults, unworn and unseen for decades, waiting for its moment. That moment arrived in 1981. The Queen gave the choker as a wedding gift, a lifetime loan, to Lady Diana Spencer. In Diana's hands, the jewel wasn't just reborn, it was electrified. The Princess of Wales wore it frequently, its deep green stunning complement to her style. But in 1985, during an Australian tour, she did something truly unforgettable. She wore the emerald choker not around her neck, but across her forehead as a bandeau. In that moment, she transformed a traditional royal choker into something completely unexpected and unforgettable. The choker gifted for an empress and overlooked by a queen had finally found the princess who would make it world famous. Diana last wore it for her 36th birthday at the Tate Gallery in July 1997. After her tragic death, the choker returned to the Queen's collection and fell silent once more. It was so strongly linked to her memory that picturing anyone else wearing it felt almost impossible. Until 2022, when it made another quiet, respectful return. The new Princess of Wales, Catherine, wore it to the Earthshat Prize in Boston, not as a bandeau, but as the elegant choker Queen Mary first envisioned, and it was absolutely breathtaking. Catherine wore this legendary choker with such effortless grace that it seemed to come alive again, its deep emeralds glowing with renewed brilliance, a perfect reminder of how historic jewels can find new life in the right hands. The sentimental treasures. Not every piece in the Queen's collection was destined for such dramatic, world-famous journeys. Some treasures tell much quieter, more personal stories. These are the sentimental gifts, jewels that waited patiently in darkness simply for someone to remember them. Queen Alexandra's Amethyst Necklace. From grand, famous chokers, let's move to a quieter piece, a beautiful amethyst necklace. The story begins with one of the most romantic wedding gifts of its time. In 1923, as Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon prepared to marry the future King George VI, she received a special present from the groom's grandmother, Queen Alexandra. It was this long sautoir necklace with seed-pearl chains, sparkling diamonds, and beautiful round amethysts, all leading to a large heart-shaped amethyst pendant. It even came with Queen Alexandra's handwritten note reading, "For my dear future granddaughter Elizabeth, from her affectionate grandmother." Long sautoir necklaces were all the rage in the 1920s. While we have no photographs of the young Duchess of York wearing this particular piece, written records confirm she did. Appropriately, she chose it for the mourning period following Queen Alexandra's 1925 death. The choice was deeply symbolic, both for its sentimental connection to Alexandra and because purple was acceptable for court mourning. But as fashions changed, the long, flowing sautoir fell out of style. After that brief 1920s appearance, the necklace simply disappeared from public view. For almost a century, this beautiful, sentimental gift from Queen Alexandra lay forgotten. After the Queen Mother's 2002 death, Queen Elizabeth inherited the necklace, and it too remained in the vaults. It wasn't until 2012 that it finally saw daylight again. For the London premiere of James Bond film Skyfall, the then Duchess of Cornwall made a surprise appearance in the historic piece. But it had changed. The necklace had been expertly shortened from its original sautoir length into a more modern, wearable necklace, though all its beautiful original elements remained. For me, it's a wonderful demonstration of how forgotten treasures can be respectfully updated and brought back to life. A jewel silent for nearly 90 years was sparkling again under camera flashes, its story ready to continue with a new generation. Mrs. Arthur James Bow Brooch. This wasn't a one-time discovery. That brings us to another beautiful piece, this time a sparkling diamond bow. The story begins back in 1923 as another wedding gift to the future Queen Mother. This one came from one of her godmothers, Mary Venetia James, a cousin of her own mother and prominent society figure. The brooch is a delicate, elegant diamond bow with a quatrefoil center element, and it became one of the Queen Mother's lifelong favorites. She wore it for decades, for everything from grand daytime events to solemn occasions. At age 98, she was still wearing this very brooch for a Field of Remembrance visit. It was a constant, trusted companion. After the Queen Mother's 2002 death, Queen Elizabeth inherited the brooch. Here, again, we see that familiar pattern. The Queen apparently never wore it. Instead, the brooch quietly waited for its next wearer. That debut came in 2005, when Camilla, the then Duchess of Cornwall, wore it for Remembrance Sunday service at the cenotaph. Since then, it's become a regular part of her collection, often chosen for similar solemn events, but also joyful ones, like her 2006 Pakistan visit. Modern commission. The Queen's lending role wasn't just about reviving forgotten heirlooms from her mother's collection. Sometimes she would commission a brand new piece for herself, perfectly in tune with modern tastes, and then almost immediately pass it to the next generation to make it famous. Japanese pearl choker. Our story takes us to 1975 during the Queen's first Japan state visit. As a gift, the Japanese government presented her with a set of the finest cultured pearls. A few years later, she commissioned crown jeweler Gerard to transform them into this beautifully simple 4-strand pearl choker, fastened with a gracefully curved central diamond clasp. It's a piece of clean, elegant design that has proven truly timeless. But here's the fascinating twist. The very first person to wear this brand new, personally commissioned piece publicly wasn't the Queen. In November 1982, for a Hampton Court Palace banquet, she loaned the choker to her new daughter-in-law, Diana, Princess of Wales. Paired with the lover's knot tiara, it looked wonderful on her. The Queen herself did begin wearing it shortly after for state visits and formal occasions throughout the 80s and 90s, but it never became one of her go-to pieces. It seems even a choker she made for herself couldn't quite win her over. A generation later, the choker found its way to Catherine, the then Duchess of Cambridge. She wore it first in 2017 to celebrate the Queen and Prince Philip's 70th wedding anniversary. but her more recent appearances in the choker are deeply poignant. She chose to wear it for Prince Philip's April 2021 funeral, and again for Queen Elizabeth II's own state funeral. The Pakistani turquoise. Our next story takes us to 1966, during an official Britain visit by Pakistan's President Ayub Khan. As a gift, he presented the Queen with this beautiful turquoise necklace. It's a traditional South Asian dalada far, originally featuring 2 rows of vibrant turquoise stones, accented with seed pearls and gold elements. The Queen, in a thoughtful diplomatic gesture, wore the new necklace for a gala performance held in the President's honor during that very visit. She paired it with Queen Mary's lover's knot tiara, and it must have been stunning. And that was the one and only time she wore it. Sometime in the early 1970s, the Queen decided to have the necklace altered. With characteristic practicality, she had it shortened to a single, more wearable row. But the leftover pendants didn't just return to the vault, they were cleverly transformed into a matching pair of earrings. This newly reconfigured set was then given to her daughter, Princess Anne. Throughout the 1970s, Princess Anne wore the Pakistani turquoise suite frequently, galas, film premieres, and other formal events. She truly gave this diplomatic gift new life. It's been seen more rarely in recent years, but it remains a wonderful example of the Queen's approach. A jewel received in her monarch role, worn once out of respect, then thoughtfully adapted and passed to a family member who would wear and appreciate it for years. And so we arrive at the most intimate jewels in our story, the earrings. Tiaras are for state occasions, grand necklaces for banquets, but earrings feel much more personal. The stories of earrings the Queen chose to lend are some of the most touching. Sapphire and diamond fringe earrings. Let's begin with a pair that sparkled with Art Deco-era glamour, the Queen Mother's sapphire and diamond fringe earrings. The exact origin of these earrings is somewhat mysterious. They have wonderful fringe detail with a gorgeous deep blue sapphire at each center, and the combination of round and baguette diamonds give them that classic Art Deco feel. It's been suggested the stones may have come from a sapphire demi-parure given to the Queen Mother as a Queen Mary wedding gift, but whatever their beginnings, they became part of the Queen Mother's collection, and she began wearing them around the 1960s for elegant black tie evenings, though they were never her most frequent choice. After she passed away, Queen Elizabeth II inherited the earrings, but for 13 years they remained in the vaults, completely unseen. Then, in October 2015, they made a surprise return. Catherine, the then Duchess of Cambridge, wore them for a Victoria and Albert Museum gala dinner. Since that debut, they've become a key part of her evening wardrobe, chosen for state banquets and important receptions. Again, we see the same pattern, a jewel quietly waiting in the vaults until a new generation brings it back to life. Diamond frame earrings. If those sapphire earrings tell a glamour story, our next pair tells one of simple, classic elegance. These are the Queen's diamond frame earrings. The design is beautiful, a floral cluster stud with a pendant of 4 graduating diamonds suspended within a delicate diamond frame. Like the sapphire earrings, their exact provenance is mysterious, but they've been in the Queen's collection for several years. But what's fascinating is how rarely the Queen herself wore them. We saw them on her in May 2012 for the state opening of Parliament, and again a year later for Garter Day at Windsor. Just a couple appearances at very formal daytime ceremonies. Then, in 2016, the earrings were loaned to Catherine, the then Duchess of Cambridge. In her hands, they've been anything but rare. They've become one of her most trusted and frequently worn pairs. She's chosen them for everything from trooping the color and royal weddings to formal dinners. But perhaps their most significant moment came when Catherine selected them for one of her official 40th birthday portraits, a choice that cemented their place in a new generation's history. Their story continues to unfold. Most recently, she chose them again for the magnificent state banquet held at Windsor Castle in September 2025, pairing them beautifully with the Lover's Knot tiara. Here again, we have a piece that, while beautiful, perhaps didn't quite fit the Queen's personal style, but has now found its home with Catherine. But what of jewels that appear so briefly they almost feel like a dream? Our final story is quieter, a little more bittersweet. It's about earrings that had just one fleeting moment with the Queen and another with a young princess before disappearing into silence. These are the Queen's pear-drop diamond earrings. Composed of two large, beautiful pear-shaped diamonds suspended from smaller, brilliant-cut stones, they were made during the Queen's reign, likely by Garrards in 1960, using stones already in her collection. Here's the heart of their quiet, almost melancholy story. The Queen was photographed wearing them on a handful of occasions in the late 1960s, including the 1968 premiere of a film about Lord Mountbatten, but they were never a favorite, and after that brief period, they were never seen on her again. For years, they simply waited. Then, in 1983, the Queen loaned the earrings to her new daughter-in-law, Diana, Princess of Wales, for her very first Australia and New Zealand tour. For a young princess stepping onto the world stage for the first time, these elegant, classic diamond drops were the perfect choice. She wore them for a grand Auckland banquet paired with her Spencer tiara. Just a few days later, she chose them again, this time with the magnificent Lover's Knot tiara. And after that tour, they vanished once more. They haven't been publicly worn by anyone since. These beautiful, classic diamond earrings feel so unfairly forgotten, as if they never quite found their place or their champion. They had one fleeting moment with the Queen, a brief burst of glamour with a young Diana on the other side of the world, and then just silence. I do hope that one day we'll see them brought out of the vaults again to finally have the long and brilliant life they deserve. I love that even pieces that never suited the Queen's own taste were not locked away forever, but quietly lent to others so they could have their moment in the light. Which jewel would you most like to see brought out of the vault again? Do you think we'll see more of these quiet treasures on loan in the years to come? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Royal Jewel Box. If you enjoyed this story, please let me know, and stay tuned for more hidden tales from the Royal Collection.